Welcome to Game Changers, the future of play, where we explore AI, gaming, and the business of play. I'm Sarah Ramos, and I'm here with the podcast team. I have Stephanie Ventura, Tony Callahan, and Diego Ventura joining me today. And we have a special guest, Larry Plotnick, president of Big Fish Games and former GM Prime Gaming at Amazon. Welcome, Larry. Uh,
Thank
well,
you.
yeah, we're so excited to have you here today. We'll hear Larry's insights on leadership and running a casual gaming organization, and then share some actionable lessons for executives, for studio leaders, and developers alike. So, with that, let's jump right in. We want to hear all about Larry. So, thank you again for joining us. Tell us about yourself. Share some, little pieces of your career. How did you get into gaming? What drew you to
Sure.
your role? Go ahead.
Such a big question to start with. How did I get into gaming? A pocket full of quarters at a local arcade is what got me into gaming. But I've been a gamer my whole life. Started out in Galaga. I'm a champion. I don't know that anybody can beat me at Galaga. But in a business sense, I got involved in gaming. 23, 24 years ago, with a company called Hollywood Video. And I saw an opportunity there to really expand the gaming industry, through Hollywood and expansion of rental, and then through retail sales and creating a really unique experience for the customer. And built that. It was called Game Crazy. Built that up to 860 stores, and it really wet my whistle, so to speak, in the gaming industry. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's really great. That's super interesting. A pocket full of quarters. What a way to start.
That's
Um, so I want to dig a little bit deeper into your leadership and running a large scale casual gaming organization. So, question that I have for you that I'm sure everybody's interested in is how do you approach leadership challenges?
It's really interesting. A couple of things, I guess I would start with. One is in a casual gaming space specifically, there's a real need, and I think it really applies for any industry, is transparency is always my starting point. I believe you have to be transparent with the organization. What's going well, what's not going well, what are the challenges we're facing, how are we going to approach things as a team? I also think organizations, especially in gaming, need consistency. Gaming is not something that you can change on a dime. It takes, months, if not years, to create a great game. And you're not always right the first time. And so maintaining consistency in the organization is critical. Otherwise, you lose your internal audience, and then eventually you'll lose your external audience. And so understanding how to create that transparency and consistency, and then how do you deal with the balance within a gaming organization of all the various types of roles that you have, which is very unique. At the end of the day, you're creating a piece of art, right? So you have these incredible creative talent that are storytellers, and they're animators, and they're artists, and balancing that with a very incredibly analytical side of a gaming organization, which is, data science and analytics and economists and all these sides, and balancing those two things and allowing them to do their job in the right kind of way and finding a way to meet in the middle is really, really critical in the game. Like I said, it applies to all organizations, but I think it really applies to the gaming organization, more so than most. And I would say for me, I lean towards the analytical side. That's who I am. I'm a very analytical person, and so I had to really learn how to find both value as well as really create space, right, for the creative side of an organization and find that balance within it. And it is an interesting day-to-day challenge.
Oh, great. Thanks for that, Larry. And tell us what's a key trend impacting your area right now?
So there's so many trends in the gaming industry. Most of them are wrong, but the two that I guess I would address. One is, the challenge of UA continues to be a really interesting challenge within the gaming space. It has been for quite some years now, really since coming out of COVID and change in IDFA and a bunch of other things. And so acquiring new customers, finding new players has become harder, at a time when there's more games than ever being launched. And so how do you find an audience? It's very, very challenging. And what's happened is you have a few large players that are able to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into marketing and buying themselves an audience, and it makes it very difficult for the smaller, more independent game developers to find that audience that they really do deserve, because they're creating tremendously great games, great experiences for players. And so how that's going to change and shift over time, I think is still to be written. We don't know where that's going to go yet, but I think there's a huge opportunity there to find that space and make it work. And then I would somewhat link that to obviously the impact of AI in gaming, and we'll get really into that detail if we want to. But AI, I think like any new technology, especially in the gaming space, people tend to throw themselves into it, whether it was Web3 or it was game subscriptions or VR, whatever it may have been. There's all these trends, blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these different trends in the gaming industry. AI is that right now, and what you're seeing is a lot of different approaches, but too often I'm seeing is just throw everything at it, just double down on AI. AI is everything. You have to be very cautious with that, because if you just use AI, and there are game companies out there right now, I shouldn't say game companies, there are technology companies that are building AI to just build a game. And what you end up with is more of the same, because they're just replicating other games that have already existed. And that's not what players want. They want new experiences. There's AI being used in art as another example. And again, you have to be very careful in using AI in these ways, because are you using someone else's licensed product or IP in order to develop that art, and all these other kinds of issues that come along with it. And so I think what I'm seeing in the industry is everybody believes in AI, and I do as well, in terms of the future of gaming. But how we approach it as an industry, historically, we've not been very good at it. Historically, that industry, we throw ourselves into new technology, and then we find out that we went too far, and then we pull back and continue forward. I guess what I would say is, at the end of the day, gaming is about content. It always has been, and it doesn't matter whether it's new technology, old technology. It's really, all that really matters is players want great content. If you look at Nintendo, I'll give them as an example. Nintendo has always been the last to take on new technology and new trends, and yet they've been at the top of this industry for a very long time. There's a reason for that, because they create world-class content that players love to play, and it's very, very simple.
Yeah. Sorry, can I jump in on the AI topic? As I'm very partial, because the company, what we do, has been AI for a long time. And, I have to echo what you're saying. I mean, I'm hearing, especially from the creative part of the house, a little bit of resistance toward the technology, maybe a little bit of being afraid of, taking place, of replacing other people. Do you think that studios will be able to differentiate AI applied for logistical back office type of task versus the creative part that I agree with you, I think should be left to the humans because of the genius and the creativity of the people that are involved. Do you think they're going to be able to make that differentiation, or maybe they're just saying it's AI, bad, let's stay away from it?
I'd answer that in a couple ways. First off, I 100% agree on the back end side of things, and we're using certainly AI and code development and QA, and there's a whole series of components where AI can create huge benefits, right, for the players as well as the companies in terms of cost savings. But I care more about the player side of it, and so how are we creating a better experience for players? That's really what matters most. At the end of the day, you can't cost save yourself into making great games. The player experience is everything. And so I think that side of it, you're already seeing it happening. I think, Diego, what you and your team are doing, focus on that area, I think is fantastic. I 100% support that. On the other side of it, sort of the front end, the creative side, I do think that AI has potential to be very impactful on that side of the business as well, and not just making Me Too games. But it is the right use of AI, not just let's just use AI to create our next game. I played with an AI tool not too long ago and made my own game. And I did it with, I don't know, a dozen prompts, and it created a game. And it looks like 100 other games that are out there, probably 1,000 games on Steam or something. But so I can recreate, but you can't create without the creative talent. And I'm not a creative talent. It just doesn't exist. And so I think finding that balance, and I think where it's going to play into on that side of things, is not creating the game or the story necessarily, or even the initial artwork, but using AI based on your own artwork that you've created in-house to create replicative images and to create new experiences within the game. I think there's a way to do that. I also think there's a way to use AI to improve the in-game experience for the players, right? Learning what they are doing, what they love in the game, and feeding them more of that in the game. So if it realizes I just want to kill things, it's a shooter game, I just want to shoot things, it may provide more enemies for me. Other things, there's ways to use it to improve the experience without creating the experience, if that makes any sense. I think creating the
Yeah.
experience is very, very dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And one more question from me. Can you share one actionable lesson for executives charged with building high-performing teams?
Whew, there's a lot of actionable lessons. I think if you want a high performing team, there's a couple things that I've always believed in. One is I think as a leader, it's your job to make the tough decisions and take the burden of those decisions off your team. I think teams need to, especially creative teams, they need to be able to operate without the burden of those tough decisions on their shoulders, right? It's what slows teams down. If you want a high performance team, you need to give them clarity of direction, create that transparency, as I said earlier, consistency, and let them run. They're going to run into walls, they're going to make some mistakes, but let them keep going, right? And don't get in their way. Let them make mistakes. That's how high performance teams learn and get better together, is by making those mistakes, and lots of small mistakes are fine. I think I think risk taking in an organization and knowing that risk taking is good, and accepted and appreciated, and the mistakes are okay, is again what builds a high performing team. Because high performing teams I've worked on and worked with over the years, they move really fast, right? And they're not worried about making a bad decision. And so if you create an organization where people are looking for scapegoats all the time, they're going to slow down and you end up with mediocrity, right? And I just don't think that's the way to define a high performing team. So I think removing distractions, being consistent, allow them to work towards their vision, allowing them to stay focused. I think those are the really at the core of it. And I think when all that works together, they're going to make some errors along the way, but the end result will be much stronger, and you will get there faster. It just may not always seem like it at the time.
You know, Larry, what's a little bit interesting, or it's very interesting about what you say. There are aspects of what you describe which really resemble how a neural network works in terms of learning from example and continuously adjusting the biases and the weights in the system to get better and better. So yeah, it's interesting that there is a similarity there, but very cool.
Yeah. There is no system in the world that I know of that works well, that can't learn, and that doesn't learn from mistakes, most importantly. And so if people can't make mistakes, or they fear that making mistakes, then they don't learn. And so, yeah, 100% agree. That's a really good point.
Thank you so much, Larry. And we saved the fun part for the very end. Before we let you go, we've got what we call some rapid fire questions. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what is your favorite video game right now?
Well, Galaga is my favorite game of all time. I'll just state that right now. If anyone wants to challenge me, let me know. But my favorite game of all time, and certainly my favorite game right now, is a game called Baldur's Gate 3. I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I've always loved the Baldur's Gate series. But what Larian Studios did with that game, it didn't just raise the bar, it completely reset expectations for the industry around storytelling and replayability of a game. Boy, it's impressive. It's impressive. If you haven't played it, play it. It's amazing. I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours I've played that game, but I'm embarrassed to admit it. So
No, nothing embarrassing about that. I love it. What's one tool or technology that you find yourself not being able to live without these days?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very analytical. I'm a numbers person first and foremost. So I'd have to say, this is embarrassing to admit, it's Excel. I love downloading and crunching numbers, building pro formas, evaluating alternative scenarios, reviewing KPIs, whatever it is. I really love rolling up my sleeves and digging into numbers. And so it's my go-to tool. I spend a lot of hours in Excel spreadsheets. So yeah.
I love it. You can find a lot of insight within an Excel sheet. So
Oh
that's great.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
it.
you can.
I've got one last one for you before we wrap it up. If you weren't in gaming professionally, what would you want to be doing instead?
Oh boy, something a lot more boring, I guess. If I wasn't in gaming, well, look, I haven't been doing gaming my whole career. I've done a lot of different things. I think you know, as long as there are interesting problems to solve, there's opportunities to create growth. There's really interesting people to work with, and there's a customer that has some passion. Then I'm a happy person. I worked in women's fashion a long time ago, and the consumer is a very passionate consumer, and I've worked in games, I've worked in movies, I've worked in a lot of different areas, and I really always comes down to is, do you have a passionate customer? I think what I couldn't do is, B2B. I don't think I could, I don't think I could sell a product or be really happy or engaged in a product that doesn't have that kind of passionate customer, because it's that customer feedback that really, for me anyway, it just energizes me. I love reading customer feedback, especially when it's like, you guys are idiots and what are you doing? And you destroyed my game, and make it better, because it's real. You can really use that feedback versus I sell paper clips and I'd like to get them cheaper, right? What do I do with that information other than try to find savings in the logistics or something? It's not very interesting work to do. So yeah, as long as there's something interesting from a customer perspective, I'd probably do it.
That makes sense. Definitely. Yes. We hear a lot about how the gaming audiences are very vocal about how they feel about certain things, which is great
Oh
from
yeah.
being able to make changes in response to that. Well, those were all the rapid fire questions I had for you. Thank you for playing
Great.
along.
I think that's going to wrap us up. Thank you so much, Larry, for sharing your insights. This is going to be great. Everyone's going to be interested in how you feel about leadership and your expertise in the industry. So we're looking forward to continuing our relationship with you. And if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to find more, please feel free to reach out to us. You can see us on Spotify, on our website, SICURAQS.ai, and you'll also find details in the caption. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.